Hey everyone! If you're loving these intense stories, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. Your support means everything. Now, let's begin. I spent the night with another man, while my husband waited at home, but when? The tram rattled along the quays of the Danube in Budapest that October night, its yellow lights cutting through the thick fog rolling in from the river. I sat near the back, coat pulled tight, watching my reflection flicker in the window. My phone buzzed again. Tomas calling for the 7th time. I let it ring out. I had told him I was staying late at the gallery for the opening of a new exhibit. A half-truth. The opening had ended hours ago. Now I was coming home from somewhere else. From someone else. From Andras. Andras was everything Tomas was not. Reckless. Magnetic. Alive in a way that made my skin hum. We had met 6 months earlier at a wine tasting in the ruins bars of Kazinchi Street. He was a photographer, always chasing light and shadow, always chasing something. I was 38, married 15 years, curator at the Hungarian National Gallery, mother to Lili, who had just started at ELTE University. I told myself I deserved one night of feeling wanted again. Tomas waited for me at home in our apartment on the Buda side, high on Rosa Dome, with its view over the illuminated chain bridge and the parliament glowing like a golden cathedral across the water. He would have cooked something simple, maybe chicken paprikash with nokadli, kept it warm under foil, fallen asleep on the sofa with the television murmuring. I knew all this because it was our routine when I worked late. Except tonight the routine had shattered. When I finally stepped through the door at 2 in the morning, the flat was dark except for the lamp in the living room. Tomas was not asleep. He sat in the armchair, fully dressed, hands clasped between his knees, staring at the door as if he had been willing it to open. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just looked at me with eyes that had gone strangely calm. "Where were you, Catalin?" His voice was quiet, almost gentle. It terrified me more than anger would have. "Still at the gallery. The donors stayed late." He nodded slowly. I called the gallery. No one answered. I called Zhuzha. She said the event ended at 10. I stood in the hallway, coat still on, handbag clutched like a shield. "I went for drinks after." "With whom?" I couldn't say the name. It stuck in my throat. Tomas stood, walked past me to the bedroom. I heard drawers opening, the soft thud of clothes being folded. When he returned, he carried my small gray suitcase, the one I used for weekend trips to Balaton, and placed it at my feet. "I think you should stay somewhere else tonight," he said. "Tomas, I'm not asking questions I don't want the answers to. Not tonight, just go." I expected fury, tears, accusations, not this quiet eviction. I left with the suitcase half-packed, took a taxi to a hotel near Dijk Ferenster. I didn't sleep. I kept seeing his face. Calm, but something behind the eyes had broken. The next weeks were a careful dance. We lived in the same apartment like polite strangers. Separate bedrooms, civil conversations about bills and Lily's studies. He cooked for 3, left my plate on the counter. I ate it or I didn't. Andras kept texting. I stopped replying. I told myself the affair was over, a mistake born of midlife emptiness. I told myself I could repair what I had cracked. But Tomas had begun something I didn't yet understand. It started small. First, my mother called in tears. Mumtupuan had sent her anonymous emails, screenshots of messages between Andras and me, intimate, unmistakable. She begged me to explain. I couldn't. Then Zasuja, my closest colleague, pulled me aside at the gallery. "Kati, the director received a letter. Photos. Of you leaving that hotel in the morning. He's concerned about the institution's reputation." I felt the blood drain from my face. Tomas wouldn't, but he would. I confronted him that evening in the kitchen. the smell of goulash simmering on the stove like nothing had changed. Did you send those things? He stirred the pot slowly. What things? You know what. He tasted the sauce, added a pinch of salt. If someone is sharing the truth, is that really so terrible? You're destroying my life. He turned to me then, eyes hard for the first time since that night. You destroyed mine the moment you chose to lie. I waited for you, Catalin. I kept dinner warm. I trusted you. And you spent the night in another man's bed. His voice never rose. It was worse than shouting. I moved out the following week, took a small flat in the Sifiantiate district, Yosef Faroz. Cheaper, louder, farther from the hills and the view I loved. Lily refused to speak to me for a month. Andras disappeared. I later learned his wife, whom he had sworn was leaving him, had received the same package of evidence. She took the children and went back to Debrecen. His exhibitions were quietly cancelled. Galleries talk. Thomas never raised his voice, never threatened. He simply released the truth, piece by piece, to everyone who mattered in my world. My professional reputation frayed. Whispers followed me through the marble halls of the museum. Donors avoided eye contact. An opening I had curated for years was reassigned. I began drinking too much tokaji in the evenings, staring out at the graffiti-covered courtyards below my new window. One Sunday in January, snow blanketing the city in silence, Lily finally came to visit. She sat on my worn sofa, eyes red. Anya, why did you do it? I had no good answer, only excuses that tasted like ash. Your father, she said quietly, he's not the same. He doesn't sleep. He just works. And he keeps your photo on his desk, the one from our Balaton holiday. I felt something tear inside. That night I walked across the Margaret Bridge in the freezing wind, past the illuminated Parliament, up the steep streets of Rotterdam to our old building. I still had a key. I let myself in. Tomas was at the kitchen table, papers spread before him, divorce documents, neatly prepared. He looked up, unsurprised. I was wondering when you'd come. I sat across from him. The flat smelled of pine from the Christmas tree we had decorated together before everything fell apart. It was still up, lights twinkling softly. I'm sorry, I said. The words felt too small. He studied me for a long time. I didn't do it to hurt you, he said finally. I did it so you would feel what I felt. The helplessness, the shame, the knowing that everyone else knows. Tears came then. I didn't stop them. I thought if I took everything you valued, your reputation, your family, your pride, you might understand what you threw away. And now? I whispered. Now I'm tired, he said. I don't want revenge anymore. I just want peace. He slid the papers toward me. Sign, and we can both be free. I stared at the line waiting for my name. Outside, snow kept falling, soft and relentless, covering the city in white. I picked up the pen, but I didn't sign. Instead, I said, let me stay tonight, just one night, on the sofa, like before. He looked at me for a long, long time. Then he stood, walked to the hallway cupboard, took out a blanket and pillow. You know where the sofa is. He went to bed. I lay awake listening to the familiar creaks of the building, the distant hum of the city below. Sometime near dawn, I heard him in the kitchen making coffee. He brought me a cup without a word. We drank in silence, watching the sun rise over the Danube, turning the snow pink and gold. Nothing was fixed. Perhaps nothing ever would be. But in that quiet kitchen, with the steam rising between us, something shifted. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Just the smallest space for the possibility that one day, after all the ashes settled, we might find a way to speak again. The snow kept falling, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel cold.